All right, welcome back to the Nosebleed Sports Podcast. I am Chris Witt. With me, as always, is Mr. Adam Schmidt. Adam, how are you today?
I'm really, really good.
Really good. I like to hear really good because our headphones are all screwed up. It's a huge echo, but today we've got our man, the LockedOnBengals.com writer.
Profit.
I think Profit's correct. Andre Edwards, Mr. Andre Edwards. Andre, how are you today, sir?
Oh, man, anytime I'm on with you fellas, I'm absolutely fantastic.
We appreciate that. We just love having you.
That is probably one of the highlights of my Bengals season, that's for sure.
Well, there wasn't too many
Yeah,
things to be highlighted
that's not saying much.
here recently, so I think you're not saying much at all.
True. Yeah, it was a little rough. But you know what? We made it through.
Yes, we did. And you had a new article come out on LockedOnBengals.com. Why don't you explain how you are the prophet? Tell us what that's. Just give us a little taste of what this is about.
So the funny thing is, I had been thinking about writing this particular article for a couple of weeks and just either didn't have the time or didn't quite have the motivation to put fingers to a keyboard. But after the Pittsburgh game, I kind of felt like, wow, the Bengals really, they won the previous game or 2 games previous to that. They really showed a lot of heart, this last game. And I could totally see Mike Brown being like, yeah, this is what I wanted. I wanted to see them fight for Marvin Lewis, and I wanted to see the team, kind of do that end of season, either win or at least, put forth that effort that shows the team isn't quitting on him and whatever. And all these tidbits have been coming out about, it's really Marvin's decision and he could probably coach as long as he wants, but ultimately it's going to be up to him. And so it kind of, came to me that maybe I should just write Marvin Lewis an open letter. And instead of the open letter, it's like, hey man, let's talk about some of the great things that happened since you've been here, because the last 3 years, especially for the fans, have been pretty miserable. We tend to forget some of the absolutely amazing things that Marvin Lewis has accomplished.
Listen, this guy as a coach, honestly, you're like I feel like he doesn't. Well, I shouldn't say he doesn't get enough praise because he kept his job longer than he should have.
Yeah.
But honestly, he turned the Bengals from the worst franchise in the NFL to like the 15th franchise in the NFL.
Nah, but look, and coming from where they were to where they are, given the ownership, I think that's a key piece that some folks tend to forget. Is every time Marvin Lewis signed an extension, he gained just a little bit more power and a little bit more influence than what he had before. And that's a difficult thing to do in Cincinnati with this particular owner. Yeah. Whereas other teams, make decisions and have their coaches make decisions and whatnot in order to win games. I don't know that Mike Brown functions and operates in that same fashion. And he believes that he is smart enough and good enough to win a championship here in Cincinnati the way he wants to get it done. But, over the course of time, Marvin was able to say, hey, man, we need some more scouts. Hey, man, we need this. Hey, man, we need that. And Mike acquiesced enough for Marvin to be able to wrestle some of that influence and power away from him. And that's a huge thing. Again, when looking at this particular owner.
And that Mike didn't give anybody any leeway. He didn't give every coach is kind of, once they've been gone, is without saying exactly how terrible they are, has kind of said how that's how Mike Brown is. Mm-hmm. But just what you said, this scouting department has completely turned around under Marvin Lewis. Was that all Marvin Lewis, or was it Mike Brown finally realizing, or maybe it was Marvin that turned him into it. But this team's got talent every year for it's been 8 years.
Yeah, I mean, with the exception of the Obuehi, Jake Fisher, and Tyler Croft draft, which was terrible. I think that was
You're allowed to have one bad one.
yeah, I mean, like 13, 14, 15, somewhere in there. I can't quite remember 4 years ago because they didn't sign Obuehi to his fifth-year option. But with the exception of that draft class, they have done a spectacular job of adding talent in key places to this team, and they've drafted on the best player available philosophy, which for me is the right way to do it. Like, don't get so locked in that you have to reach for a quarterback, that you have to reach for, a wide receiver. Just because you got two really strong cornerbacks doesn't mean you can't use a third if he's the best player on your board at that time. Go ahead and go get him. And I think Duke Tobin, Marvin Lewis, and the other folks in that boardroom have done a really, really, really good job of putting talent on this team to the point that the cupboard is not bare for whoever the next coach may be.
Yeah, Andre, you did a good job in your letter giving Marvin credit for the things that he did with the team and in the community. And then you politely asked him, or you politely suggested that it might be time for him to step down at the end there. And
I'm a nice guy, man. What can I say? I'm a nice guy.
Yeah, yeah. That was my favorite thing about him losing his job is people actually started being nice about the guy on Twitter and stuff after everybody was just bashing him to death for the entire season, and now people are like actually giving him credit for the good things that he did, and you certainly did that. So, what is his legacy then from now on? Is he going to be remembered for the guy that stuck around way too long, and ultimately failed because we didn't win any playoff games and he didn't, get anybody to the Super Bowl? Or is he going to be the guy that turned this franchise around after being the laughingstock of professional sports for 13 or 14 years?
I think the further we get away from his tenure, the more positive his legacy will be and become, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there will be the fond memories of the Ocho Cincos and TJ Houshmandzadehs and, Rudy Johnsons and those dudes. And then, the kind of the next iteration of the Andy Daltons, AJ Greens, Andrew Whitworths, Geno Atkins, Carlos Dunlap, those type of folks. That, when you think about this, the franchise has been around 51 years. Mm-hmm. In 51 years, the franchise has made it past the first round of the playoffs a grand total of 3 times.
Yikes.
3, period.
Twice they went to the Super Bowl.
Twice they did, yes. But, you think about that in the grand scheme of, wow, he went to 5 consecutive playoffs in a row. He went to 7 in 16 years. We weren't even getting out of the first round at all previous to him coming here anyway. So it's not like, oh, he's some massive failure in the grand scheme of looking at the history of the team.
And I think that was the whole thing with Marvin Lewis from the beginning. It wasn't that Marvin Lewis was horrible, and that's the reason we wanted him out. His time had just came to an end.
Yes, I would totally agree with that. I think you knew what you got with Marvin. I think it had become stale. It had become the perception became that it was complacent. It was just the same thing over and over again, and it was just time. I think he's a good coach. I think the defense made gigantic improvements once he took over the defensive play calling and scheming and all those things. And I think he still has the passion to coach. I just don't think that being here for a 17th year would have been the right move.
So does he get a job this year, or is this going to be something that takes him time? Maybe he takes a year or two off before that taste of no playoff wins gets out of everybody's mouth, and then he gets a chance at another job.
I could see him very easily landing a defensive coordinator position this year.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, what about a head coaching job? I mean, this Arizona team. I mean, you hate to put somebody under a certain hat of, this is just what they can do. But Marvin Lewis turned this franchise around, flat out. That's what he did. Arizona needs to be turned around right now. Is that a possibility for a head coaching job? Or
I personally don't believe so, only because of the stigma of the last 3 years. You got to think about it the same way that we look at it here.
right?
You, as the owner and GM, you have to sell your fan base on the next person that's walking in that door. How difficult is it to sell your fan base on Marvin Lewis, the dude who coached for 16 straight years as the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, lost 7 straight times in the playoffs, and is on 3 consecutive losing seasons? I don't think that's going to go over well with any franchise, at least any franchise's fan base. I am not saying Marvin Lewis isn't a good head coach. I'm not saying he couldn't succeed in a more supportive environment. I'm saying the stigma around him right now, you could probably much more easily see him as a defensive coordinator than as a head coach this particular year.
Yeah. Okay, so coming back to the Bengals specifically, do you have an ideal candidate for the guy that takes over, or lady that takes over the as Chris and I talked about last week, to become the next head coach for the Bengals, or a type of coach maybe?
No, I have a person.
You have an exact person.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
And I've been talking about this.
Let the prophet speak.
Yeah, I've been talking about this for probably 6 weeks or so, maybe even more now.
Don't say Hugh Jackson.
Hugh Jackson.
Please don't say Hugh Jackson.
I might be banned from this show if I said Hugh
You
Jackson.
would be. You would be.
Look here, I would ban myself from this show. If I said Hugh Jackson.
You made your feelings clear at the end of your letter to Marvin, how you felt about Hugh Jackson possibly.
That is correct. P.S. Please take Hugh Jackson with you. Thanks.
Oh, he will. Don't worry.
They'll both be on ESPN next year for a year, and they'll go
Absolutely.
somewhere. And
Yeah,
catch
you guys, they can be analysts and do whatever the heck they want to do together, just not here in Cincinnati.
That's right.
All right, so who's your guy?
So my guy is current Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy.
Now he's interviewing on Friday
He is.
for the job.
Yes.
So Eric Bieniemy. So multiple teams came after him and asked for interviews. He only accepted 4. One
Correct.
of them being this job.
That is correct.
I believe he was meeting with the Dolphins, Jets, us, and
I know he turned down
he
Arizona.
turned down Arizona, which is perfect reason for Marvin to go over there.
Yeah, I don't care. I really don't care where Marvin goes.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
No hard feelings. We love you. Goodbye.
No. And the reason why I say Eric Bieniemy, one, he has a fantastic reputation amongst coaches, players, that type of thing. 2, he comes from clearly a very successful program. I want somebody who is offensive minded. I want somebody who has learned at the feet of one of the best offensive minds in the game, in Andy Reid. From what the things that I've read and been told by a couple of NFL folks that I'm close enough with to get real true opinions on or opinions from, he is highly sought after and looked at favorably across the league as a guy who can run a franchise. He holds players accountable. For those who like the whole yelling and screaming and whatever kind of guy, which, Cincinnati fans, for whatever reason, really like that kind of fiery personality.
It may not be that we like it. It's the fact that we had the complete and total opposite of it for this long.
Correct. But he is that dude. So he yells and screams, but, also pats you on the back when you do what you're supposed to do, and when you do it right. So give me Eric Bieniemy, and I think that you reinvigorate the franchise. I think there are a lot of fans right now who are on the fence and super skeptical about what this next move is going to be. And I think if you hire Hugh Jackson or you hire a man from Denver or, Vance Joseph or any of those, if you hire an internal candidate or somebody who's closely associated with Marvin Lewis, you might as well have just re-signed Marvin Lewis.
I completely agree with that. I think, and the problem is Mike Brown locks himself away in a soundproof home where he has no idea what fans want. I feel like, and that's what scares me, is that we might get Hugh Jackson back.
So I don't know. I look at it like this: the last time we were in this particular situation where there was complete and total fan apathy, folks just angry, thinking that, yes, they just fired Dick LeBeau. They're probably just going to get another internal candidate. It'll probably be whoever the offensive or defensive coordinator was at that time, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. He came up with the hottest name in free agent coaching availability. Yeah. Like, Marvin Lewis in 2003 was the hottest name in football from a coaching perspective.
Best defense in the NFL, and so that he was in charge of in Baltimore, and then he comes over here. All right, so then,
right. So, I mean, it's not like the very last time we did this, he didn't go outside the organization and go get that top of the line coach.
Right. Well, that's promising. It makes you hope, at least as a fan. So. Yeah. Back to Eric Bieniemy for just a second, then I got another question for you, and I'm hogging all the time from Adam. I apologize. So Bieniemy, Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. Obviously, the Chiefs unbelievably offensive, even after they lose Kareem Hunt. It really, it hasn't affected them too much. So my question to you is, with Andy Reid being the offensive mind he is, how much of that really is Eric Bieniemy over there, and how much of it is Andy Reid?
Well, where did Matt Nagy come from? Right before he took over Chicago.
Yeah. So even if you're not making 100% of the play calling, at least you're learning under the best there is.
Absolutely. Where did Sean McVay come from?
Yeah. There you
right?
go.
Yeah. Nice coaching tree.
And it's not like
it's better than the Belichick coaching tree.
Right. Well, the Belichick coaching tree just comes back to Belichick. So
that's right.
it's just a stump. They don't really branch out.
There's no tree.
It's a plant.
But yeah, you look at the last two quote unquote offensive coordinators that he's had. Those dudes have gone on to revitalize offenses in a way that was completely and totally unexpected. You looked at Jeff Fisher. I thought Jared Goff was a bust, right?
Right. Everybody did.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody did. And then you have McVay come in and install some of the same principles and use of weapons the way that Andy Reid uses them in Kansas City. And it's like, holy crap, this dude's amazing. You look at Mitch Trubisky. Everybody was like, dude, why in the hell did you draft Mitch Trubisky where you drafted him? That's going to be a complete and total waste of a quarterback draft. Or is it not? Because dude played really well this year. So I think people are starting to see that, hey, man, you can get a young, offensive-minded coach who comes from a good system, knows what he's talking about, knows what he's doing. You can make some moves. And this roster is talented. Say what you want about Andy Dalton, but you got A.J. Green, you got Joe Mixon, you got Giovanni Bernard, you got Tyler Boyd, you got a John Ross who hasn't been unlocked to this point. You have the potential for either a high round draft pick as a tight end or a re-signing of Tyler Eifert. There are pieces on this offense that remind you of Kansas City, that remind you of the things that they do in Chicago or that they do in LA. Like, it's not that far off that you could see, using the pieces in the correct manner, this offense being a whole heck of a lot more explosive next year than what it was this year.
So that goes to my next question that I was going to ask you so you're saying that you don't see there being a lot of personnel changes on the team then? Mostly coming through Dalton. You think this team is pretty much going to stay intact no matter who they bring in?
Well, if I were a head coach, one, if I'm going to be here, I would need to say, hey, how tired are you to Andy Dalton? I am not personally an Andy Dalton fan. I think he's a decent quarterback. I think he's a middle-of-the-road quarterback. I think if everything is perfect and he has all the right pieces in place, Andy Dalton can get you to basically where you want to go, but it has to be damn near absolutely perfect.
Sure. Trent Dilfer, Matt Hasselbeck.
Yeah, exactly. It's got to be the absolute perfect mix of players and injury-free and all those things for it to work. I think if I were a head coach coming in, I either need to be, one, really, really comfortable with Andy Dalton, or two, have the ability to say, all right, so this year or next year, can I draft my own dude? I mean, we can use Andy Dalton kind of look at it as KC with Alex Smith and Mahomes. Sure, we can play Andy Dalton this year. Let me draft my dude, give him a year, and then let's go. But as far as roster turnover and whatnot, I think personally, Vontaze Burfict needs to be gone.
Thank you.
I think he's got one more year on his contract. I think he just needs to go. And concussions may end up taking care of that on its own, but I think he needs to go. But as far as turnover is concerned, I don't really see a lot. They were the second youngest team in the entire National Football League this year, so there's really not a ton of spots that are going to come open. I think they have, I want to say something like 18 free agents coming up this year, a handful of which are restricted, a handful of which, they have first rights to type of thing. So, and then you got dudes like Ogbuehi, yeah, you can walk. Fisher, yeah, you could probably walk. Vinny Ray, yeah, you can go. I mean, so I don't really see a ton of turnover coming.
At least at the skill positions or the minus Vontaze Burfict.
Correct.
All right.
So then what do they need to address most in the draft, do you think?
Linebacker and offensive line. Again, I don't know that. I'm not sure how many picks they have next year, but let's say it's like 9. I would be like linebacker, offensive lineman, linebacker, offensive lineman, linebacker, offensive lineman.
Yeah. Hey, that sounds good to me. You got to take what you need. And
we just got done saying best player available.
It better be a linebacker and offensive lineman.
and if you draft, 4 offensive linemen and 4 linebackers, at least one of those on each side of the ball should work out, hopefully.
Their linebackers are terrible. with the possible exception of Nick Vigil.
I was just gonna say when Nick Vigil is your bright spot, I don't know that that's a good thing.
Correct. No, that is. I could not agree more. With the possible exception, I think Nick Vigil is a good third linebacker who is out in space trying to cover tight ends and running backs. Okay, cool. He's a short tackler, especially when he's healthy. I got no beef with Nick Vigil.
It's what Vinny Ray was 3-4 years ago.
Yeah. I always thought Vinny Ray was a step or two slow, always. Even when he was younger, I always thought he was a step or two slow. He was in the right spots from a scheme perspective. He was just a step or two slow.
Yeah.
But I honestly think they are in desperate need of a difference-making linebacker on this team. And I think the right side of this offensive line, Bobby Hart is not a starting caliber right tackle. My guy, right guard, his name is escaping me at this point.
The one that ended up playing center half the time.
No. I was thinking Alex Redmond.
Oh, Redmond. Okay.
All right, yeah. Alex Redmond is not a starting right guard in the National Football League. He just isn't. And that right side needs some help, whether that be, again, via the draft, via free agency, whatever it is you need to do. that's got to be better.
So that's where we need to get a head coach. When does free agency start? When can you start signing or courting free agents? Do you have any idea on that off the top of your head? Roundabout.
February, Marchish.
Okay, so they're talking. We'll have a coach in 6 weeks. That's February. I feel like we're gonna have to go a little faster than that, honestly, because I think you need time for your coaching staff to do exactly what you just said and get in, look at your roster and say, why are these guys on the team? Just like you did, get rid of them and find out. Okay, here's where we need to start. That's a process, and that's a long process.
No, absolutely. So I don't think February is target date. I think for most teams, not all, but I think for most teams, your target date is the Senior Bowl. Because by the Senior Bowl is when you want to have your coaching staff together so you guys can go down and start evaluating. Because that's the first real, off-season all-star game type of thing. And I want to say that's the end of January, maybe January 25th, 26th, somewhere in there is when the Senior Bowl week is, or when the game is, I should say. And so you want to have the guys who are going to be evaluating talent, you want to have them in place by then. So I genuinely believe if the Bengals do it right and the way that they should do it, we'll probably have a coach named here within the next 2 to 3 weeks, tops.
Tops. It'd have to be top. Yeah, because you still need time.
He's got to put his coaching staff together, including even if you kept everybody on staff, you still have to hire another defensive coordinator too, right? I mean, he's got a lot of work to do once you get.
Yeah, I think if you're a head coaching candidate, if you're a smart one,
You've already got that.
Yeah.
I've already reached out to my homeboys and be like, "Hey, dog, if I get this gig with the Bengals, you gonna come be my DC? Yeah, I got you. Okay, cool.
Right.
Or you know what I mean? So at least the major pieces, or you look at it and say, all right, all of the coaches are under contract in Cincinnati for at least a year. Who do I like? I really like Darren Simmons, or I really like Frank Pollock. I don't like this person, this person, this person. They can go because I have replacements for them.
See,
and I think
but the problem is everybody likes Hugh Jackson.
except everybody in Cincinnati
And Cleveland.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I would come if I'm a legit head coaching candidate. I would come in with my plan and with here's my people and here's the folks I've already talked to and here's who I can bring to the organization.
All right. Well, I'm closing the book on the Bengals for this year.
Before we close the book,
Okay.
let's talk about. So we'll close it on this year,
Okay.
but next year.
Yeah, sure.
Is that
What-
where you were going, or
Yeah,
are
are
you
you-
closing the book altogether?
Are you? I was closing it all together, but
what
that's
I
a good
thought.
question. Do you see them competing in the AFC North next year?
I think it'll depend on who the head coach is going to be, man. I mean, I genuinely believe that with the right hire, this team could take that next step next year. There are a lot of really, really good pieces, man. I mean, we only talked about really looking at the offense from, you figure everybody will be basically healthy when the season starts. So that gives you back Andy, AJ, Tyler Boyd, John Ross is healthy, Joe Mixon and Giovanni Bernard are your skill position folks that you can absolutely count on. I assume they re-sign at least one of the 3 tight ends that is going to be a free agent this year. But on the defensive side of the ball, you look at cats like William Jackson III, Jesse Bates, Sean Williams, Sam Hubbard, Carlos Dunlap, Geno Atkins. I mean, there are some pieces on this team that, if those dudes just perform the way that they did at, this year, plus you add a few more pieces in the draft, you add a more aggressive philosophy, from a coaching perspective, I don't think it's out of the question to say, all right, look at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's a mess.
Yep.
From a drama perspective with Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, and it's just a mess. And then I think Cleveland and Baltimore, while they are definitely on the come, especially in Cleveland, I don't know that, I'm all of a sudden being like, yo, those are, 11, 12 win teams. Not necessarily.
Well,
So
they haven't proven neither. Well,
Yeah.
Baltimore might be the closest, and that's with one of these quote unquote running quarterbacks who seem to never last more than 2 years in the league anyway.
exactly. So, you have those question marks on every team at this point. And I don't think it's, beyond the realm of possibility that the Bengals are either AFC North champs and or at least a wild card.
Right.
Sounds good to me. I think they're winning the Super Bowl next year, but you know how I am.
Yeah.
Mr. 11-5.
I thought that 11-5 was reasonable if everybody would have stayed healthy. They almost beat the Chargers. They should have beat the Chargers. If they don't have penalties, and if they just become one of the top 10 penalized teams instead of the most penalized team, then they win. They win a couple more games at the end of that season, and they're fighting for a playoff berth.
Yeah. No,
Honestly,
I don't.
With a lot of their starters missing, yeah.
I can't disagree that they're fighting for a playoff berth. I still think 11-5 was a bit ambitious.
Okay, it might have been. It might have been. All right, so we close the book on the Bengals, right?
I'm
we
done-
with the
I'm
Bengals?
done
So
with the
then,
Bengals.
Andre, real quick, for anybody joining us now, this is Andre Edwards, LockedOnBengals.com writer, founding member of. Give us the band name again because it lost my head for a second.
Debonair.
Debonair. If you can find any songs by Debonair somewhere, I'd appreciate it so we can have some walk-up music for you next time you come on.
Walk up
Yeah, I'll
music.
work on that.
All right.
Hey, Andre, that's something that has always interested me. You're a very interesting fella. But one thing is, so you have been the most active person in the music business that I've ever known. So you studied music of some type in college, correct?
Correct.
Take it back. We'll go real fast through this. Take it back all the way to your childhood. What inspired you? What made you feel so connected to music early on? When did you first feel like, man, music is a big deal to me? I want to study it. I want to make it a big part of my life. When did you feel that? What was your inspiration for that?
Yeah, so like a lot of kids, I grew up in church and singing in church. My parents both sang a little bit, so just being in choir and whatnot at church was probably kind of where it started. And then sometime about the fourth grade, I was in just a kind of regular music class, and they have kids singing and playing random instruments and whatever. And so my teacher at the time was like, hey, I think you got a pretty decent voice. I think you should audition for Cincinnati Boy Choir. And I didn't really know much about it, but went in and auditioned and ended up earning a scholarship in order to be able to do that. So I did that for probably 2 or 3 years, I think. Traveled all over the United States and had a pretty good time doing that, and really started to enjoy it. And then ended up going to Walnut Hills High School, where I want to say like 8th grade, tried out for a musical, got a fairly decent part. Met a couple of music teachers over there who, really took an interest in me and in my abilities, and kind of said, hey, man, what are you doing? Why don't you try this, and why don't you do that? And so I started taking some voice lessons, and next thing you know, it was kind of senior year, and it was like, hey, what are you doing next year? And I was like, I don't really know. And they were like, well, have you considered, singing and doing music for college? And honestly, I grew up, I won't say poor, but I grew up probably lower middle class, and I'm the first person in my family to go to and graduate from, 4-year college. And so it was kind of a foreign concept to my family, but it was kind of like, no, I think this is what I want to do. So
Good for you.
yeah. So I got my bachelor's degree down at Morehouse College. It's a bachelor's of arts, but my major was vocal performance, and then went from there and went on to Ohio University, where I earned my master's of music in vocal performance and teaching. So I used to do opera and musical theater and teach private voice lessons and things of that nature.
So not only are you the most phenomenal writer at LockedOnBengals.com, but you're also the most phenomenal singer at LockedOnBengals.com.
I don't know, but
Let's be honest. Come on, go ahead, pat yourself on. There ain't nobody got all those credentials.
Well, let's be honest. One of my qualifications for writing for Locked On Bengals was that I did the national anthem for the Bengals game. So clearly that qualifies me for being able to write about them.
Look it up on YouTube. One of the best renditions of the. We're gonna put the link up on the page, and everybody can watch you in debonair singing the national anthem at Locked Up with Andre Edwards from LockedOnBengals.com.
Yeah. It's good time. It's good times.
So anyway,
So okay, yeah. So when was the last time you like the rest of us are not currently your career is not in what you studied, correct?
That is correct.
Just like Chris and I and so many people I know.
I would have had to have an education past high school to be able to say that my education took me somewhere different from my job
went for a while. Anyway, so what was the last thing you did in music?
Does karaoke count?
Oh, 100%. No.
You win every karaoke contest you've ever been in, I guarantee that. Because there are some awful karaoke singers out there.
See, the thing is some people have good performance when they do karaoke, and they can kill it that way. But I feel like we've known you for a long time. I feel like you got the performance and the voice.
And an actual voice, yeah.
So it's funny, man. Like karaoke, I am super critical of myself when I sing karaoke, and it's always like, oh my God, that was great, and I'm like, I don't know, man. It was all right. It was this, it was that. I could work on this. I could work on that. I was like, yeah, dude, it's freaking karaoke. Come on, man, you'll be all right.
Go-to karaoke song.
Kiss, Prince.
Nice. Very good. Okay, so you don't do anything now. Is there any part of you that thinks maybe at some point you'll get back into singing professionally or just regularly, or do anything in the music industry at all?
I don't know. Like I think maybe once my kids are a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I spend most of my quote unquote free time running to soccer and futsal and basketball and whatever else they've got going on. And my oldest is starting to enter an age where he's doing a little bit of stuff on stage. He's got an amazing voice, like absolutely amazing voice I could sit and listen to him sing all the time. So I think probably in helping to encourage him to do some of those type of things. And then maybe once they get a little bit older to where they can, either carpool and or transport themselves places will give me a little more time to be able to, reach out and do some community theater type stuff or maybe some community choir type stuff. But as of right now, probably just random karaoke stuff that I do with a couple of homeboys of mine and watching my kids, man.
Well, next time you're doing karaoke, I need a text because I need to be there.
Yeah.
I want to be there for the next performance of Andre Edwards.
It's a show, man. That's for sure.
I'll join in. I'll join in. I'll join in and be the guy who goes on before you and sounds horrible and makes a fool out of himself. So when you get on, everybody cheers even more.
Hey, karaoke's fun, man. It's a good time, regardless of what you sound like. It's a good time.
Trust me, I know.
I'm the best karaoke observer.
How about this? Adam. If Andre shoots us a message next time he goes karaokeing with his partners, me and you go, but you have to get up there.
Okay, so not only would I never sing in front of anyone ever, but when there's like an actual professional, like a professional vocalist doing it on the same night at the same place, of course not. Are you kidding me? I'm just going to record Andre so that we have something to play next time he's on.
There you go. That works too.
Believe me, there will be plenty of people who sound, I don't even care what you sound like. There will be plenty of people who sound way worse than you, who have zero business holding a microphone.
Just don't sing anything. You just don't. The key to karaoke is if you can't, I mean, unless you're you, the key to karaoke is you don't pick a song where you actually have to sing.
Okay, so that brings me to this. I know if I ever did karaoke, and I will not, I know the song that I would do, and it's exactly to your point.
What is it?
It is called Miss Fat Booty by Mos Def.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, that's what
That
I'm
would be
talking
my go-to, only
Yeah.
because I know every word to it.
Exactly.
That's the only reason I would do it.
That's all you got to do.
Perfect.
And I don't have to sing.
We could do. Me and you do Warren. We'll do regulators.
Okay, I could
You
probably
be
do that
Warren
one.
G. I'll be Nate Dogg.
Excellent.
Don't. Well, no. Nate's got to sing a little bit, so I'll do him.
You got to do him. All right,
enough of
Andre,
that.
yeah.
Anyway.
We're going to let you go to bed, man.
All right.
I appreciate you hanging out with us once again. Catch him LockedOnBengals.com. Great writer, prophesized Marvin Lewis's exit from the Bengals the day before. He wrote an open letter to Marvin Lewis. Check it out on the website, and you can catch Andre on Twitter. He's a great follow at
Andre Edwards 06.
Andre Edwards 06. All right, man. We appreciate it, bro.
Thanks, Andre.
Anytime, fellas.
All right, see you, buddy.
All right, sir.
All right. There you go. Well, my it did the way that I planned on recording that didn't work the way I thought it was going to, but that's all right. We got Andre on. That was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That might be the last time we have him on for a little bit, maybe until the draft or something like that. But we had to keep him a little bit longer, and we had to get to know him a little bit better.
We've had him on a few times, and I feel like nobody knows the real Andre Edwards.
A multi-talented gentleman.
He's not just a phenomenal writer, huge Bengals fan, but he's also the best singer I've ever met or known. Mostly because he's the only singer I know. So
Exactly.
there you go. All right, so Adam,
Yes.
let's move on. I think we have no reason to get into any more Bengals stuff. Do you?
I'm all set.
All right, that sounds good, man. So, what do you want to shoot on to next in the world of sports these days?
I don't know. I now that the Bengals are done, I'm not even all that interested in the NFL.
Sure.
Even the playoffs. But
Sure.
I mean, I'll watch some of the games. I'll probably pick it back up in the NFC and AFC championship games. To be honest with you, I'll watch those and then I'll watch the Super Bowl. I can't say Super Bowl. It's copyrighted. Not allowed to say Super Bowl. You can say Super Game or Big Game.
I'm
or
telling you right now, you can say Super Bowl.
game with the two teams left that haven't lost yet in the playoffs, or the grand finale, or whatever you want to call it. But you can't call it the super beep. That was my beep. I had to censor it. So anyway, we do have 4 playoff games though coming up this weekend. You have the Colts at the Texans, the Seahawks at the Cowboys, Chargers at the Ravens, and Eagles at the Bears. I think I'm just going to say all the home teams.
Really?
Even though the Chargers are probably going to be favored over the Ravens, maybe even.
I would say so. In fact,
Baltimore.
that's the one game I would take that. What's the other? Give me the other games one more time.
So the Colts are at the Texans. The Seahawks are at the Cowboys. I think both home teams win.
I'm
those
taking
games.
Colts. I'm taking the
Taking
Colts.
the Colts. I can see that. The Chargers are at the Ravens, and then the Eagles at the Bears. And the Eagles might be a more complete team. Really, I mean,
I don't know if you can say that. This Bears team has
Yeah.
been phenomenal lately. Mitch Trubisky does exactly what needs to be done. They got Allen Robinson outside, and the defense obviously is. I don't know if they're not the best defense in the league. They're top 3.
Very
so
close. Yeah.
yeah, I'm going with the Bears in that one.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I am too. So anyway, you got 2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday. It'll be, it's playoff football. It's good. It's, you don't have to watch like Bengals Raiders or anything like that. So tune in and watch a couple of hopefully good 4 hopefully good games, and then on from there. But I don't know. I mean, that's the NFL. It's not my forte, certainly, which is why I defer to you, and we both defer to Andre.
We both defer to Andre
So,
for
yeah.
sure. We appreciate him coming on, as always.
So, the next really big thing I wanted to talk to you especially about,
Okay,
we talk almost every week about LeBron James.
we do. I love my man. That's my boy.
LeBron's birthday was on the 30th a few days ago. That was Sunday. On that day, I believe it was, his show that airs on ESPN Plus, More Than an Athlete,
Yes.
where he sits down with his group of like 4 guys or whatever, his guys that he's been friends with, that he has employed as his agent and his closest.
One guy, he runs their agency.
Right. Maverick Carter, I believe.
Mav.
So his
I
guys,
feel like that dude's related. Got to be related to Lil Wayne somehow, right?
or maybe Vince Carter, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, they sat down. During the course of this past show, LeBron volunteered his feeling that winning the championship in 2016, and specifically the way they did it and the team that they beat, which they came back from 3-1 and beat the Golden State Warriors, who had won 73 games that year.
Most wins ever in a season.
The fact that they did that, they came back from the 3-1 deficit to beat that team in the finals, made him the greatest player of all time, in his words.
I mean, it's not his words. It's more than just his words.
Well,
I
he was the one that
he was the one that
specifically
said it.
that.
So it wasn't his words. I've been saying that since he did it. That
So you
put him
agree
over
that-
top. Yes. When we had this conversation between him and Michael, I hate that when you go in and go this greatest of all time talk that you're knocking somebody down. Nobody's knocking Michael down anywhere. Michael Jordan.
But it feels that way, no matter
it
how
might
you say
feel
it.
that way, and fine. Don't
most people, it feels
then
that way.
don't put LeBron above Michael, but you can't say that he's below him. This guy's done everything and more than anything Michael ever did.
Except go undefeated in the finals and win MVP every year and that kind of thing. And look, I'm not.
Look
that's
at the
not
team.
my.
It's
Hold on. That's not my case. I know that's some people's only case for that. That is not my only case. Michael also was a much better two-way player, way better defender than LeBron James ever was.
on a consistent basis. LeBron James, when he wants to be, could probably be the best defensive player. But you're right. Michael did it all the time, even when he was the greatest offensive. So yeah, okay. I think
he
put
was
that to the side.
10-time first team all defense, maybe even more than that. He was defensive player of the year. So for that reason, for many reasons, but it's hard for me. And look, I think here's my thing. By the end of LeBron's career, all of the numbers, all the statistics are going to point to him being, at least statistically, the greatest player of all time. And there's a big reason for that is that he has had one of the longest primes of any star. I mean, his prime has been for 12 years now, 13. Really, I mean, he's 15, 16 years
Since
in.
his second year in the NBA,
Since
really.
his second year, and
or
he's
third year,
still
he was on
considered the best player in the league by a lot of people.
right.
That's really, really impressive. The way he's kept his body up. He's 34 now. He turned 34 on Sunday. So, a lot of times for a lot of guys, there are a lot of stars that were out of the league by the time they were 34. LeBron's still the best or one of the top 2 or 3 players in the league at 34 years old right now.
Yeah.
That's very impressive. He continues this. He gets another 3 or 4 or even 5 good years left. He's going to finish. You're going to have, I don't know if he's going to win another MVP or not. There are so many other great players, and once you win so many, it kind of like voters start to not
It
vote
was
for
the
you
same way.
because
Same
you
thing
have so
happened to
many.
Michael. It was
Right.
it was the Mike. Michael had the same problem. Michael could have won MVP forever, and LeBron could have probably won 10 MVPs.
Right. Yeah.
Should have, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when he went back to Cleveland. Those was it 3 years?
Yeah.
2 years? 3 years? 3 years.
Yeah. So at the end of LeBron's career, right now, I'm not willing to say he's better than Michael. I'm not willing to say he's the greatest of all time. I don't like to say that about anybody or anything until the end of their careers.
Okay, well, how about this? He's the greatest of his generation.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
I don't like comparing people anyway because Michael had nobody to compare himself to before that. When you compare him to like a Magic Johnson, well, they're two totally different players. And to be honest, Michael and LeBron are two totally different players. So let's say greatest shooting guard of all time, Michael Jordan. Greatest small forward of all time,
Larry Bird. I had to give that to you.
How about greatest 3/4?
Greatest slasher. Greatest 3 slasher, maybe. Anyway, let me take the point that you made just now,
okay,
and steer it in this direction without having the debate of who's the best of all time. I only want to talk about how you feel about LeBron saying that. Now, and I say that now. You helped me steer it this way because Michael Jordan, I believe he believes he is the best player of all time. I think there's no question.
I don't think there's a question.
But he has never said that, and he's been asked specifically about that several times when he was playing and after his career. Every time he says, I can't say that I'm the greatest of all time. I won't compare guys. I won't compare eras. I never got to play against Bill Russell. I never got to play against Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West. He names those guys, the Oscar Robertsons. He has said that same answer every time. I believe in his mind, he's like, of course I'm the greatest of all time.
It's Michael Jordan.
But
he
yes,
100% believes that. But I know
right.
where you're coming from. All right.
So for me, and listen, I had a hard time finding current players addressing this, but there were several former players that did give their opinion about LeBron saying that. All of them, almost all of them disagreed with the fact that he is the greatest of all time, specifically because of what he said.
Right.
But just about everybody had a problem with him coming out and saying it. That just looks bad. It's okay. Honestly, I'm fine with him feeling that way and believing that. And that's totally fine because a lot of other players, I think, feel that way. Michael, I'm sure, feels that way. Bill Russell probably feels that way. Wilt probably felt that way. Oscar probably feels that way. But to come out and say it, these other guys haven't said that. It just looks bad. And honestly, lately, it's kind of running into this kind of this list of things that he's doing. He walked into the game the other day carrying a glass of wine. Like I feel like that was staged.
I don't know what that was all about.
That feels weird. And then he comes out and says, "I'm the greatest of all time." That's like a little series of things that he's. I don't know. It's just weird, man. Those things don't pair well for me, even by themselves. I thought it was kind of funny at first when he came in with a glass of wine. I'm like, well, that's weird. And, but kind of like, okay, well, it's LeBron. He can do that, I guess.
Sure.
But still walking in, drinking alcohol of some kind, walking into work.
Right.
Who does that?
Nobody does.
And then did he carry that glass of wine in his car with him when he was driving? Or like, did he get it just outside so that he could be seen carrying it in?
Where was the game at?
I don't know. I'm guessing L.A., but I'm not positive.
I'd have to say that couldn't have been in L.A. because then he would have drove himself to the game. He's not driving with a glass of wine. He's not taking that chance.
Do you ride?
Unless somebody else is
with
driving
a glass of wine?
Yeah, sure, why not? I sit in the back seat. I go in the back seat with a glass of wine.
Okay. Okay.
He's LeBron James. He can do whatever he wants, but that's not the point. I know what your point is. The point is the fact that he said it. The fact that he's telling you that he's the greatest. Where LeBron forever has been pretty modest about things like that. He's never come out, he's always said he wants to be the greatest, and I work to be the greatest, which is what Mike will always say, and all the great, nobody ever comes out and says that. I'm not a big fan of him coming out and saying it, to be completely honest with you. I don't like that. I think that you take that high road, he's done it forever. But in all reality, is he wrong? I mean, he's got a foot to stand on. I mean,
he does.
He's got and
he can make the argument for sure.
He can make the argument. Now, if you're Muggsy Bogues and you're like, I'm the greatest of all time, then everybody just kind of laughs at you, or Lance Stevenson. Everybody kind of laughs at you like, well, that's, you just know. But the fact that he can say it and there's talk about it, that gives that puts off the idea that he's right there, that is a possibility. And you have to have a little bit of ego. You have to have a little bit of ego in order to play this game. I almost lost the whole computer.
I thought that was going off.
You got to have a little bit of ego to, not
Sure.
a little bit, you have to have a lot of ego
You have to have
be able to
some,
perform at that kind of level all the time, every day. And if you're not thinking it, and he's around all his boys, he's around his boys. Though that's the thing,
I'm sure
when you
he
get
felt
KD
most
in these
comfortable.
podcasts saying the craziest things, it's because he's just chilling in a room with some other guy. Like, you don't know who's listening. To me, it's just me and you. And to KD, it's just him and that guy on the other side of the podcast. But in reality, there's so many other people out there listening to it, and it turns into something. You're going to say things completely different when you're in a room, chilling with your boy, hanging out, than you are if you're in front of the media and everybody else or whatever's going on.
But that's the other thing. LeBron's been pretty calculated for the most part throughout his career about what he says. This is his show on ESPN Plus. He knows a million people are gonna way more than that.
Yeah.
A lot of people are gonna watch, not as much as that listens
And
to
there's
this podcast.
lights and a
but-
camera and
Right. I'm sure there's some level of comfort that he feels around his guys, just getting into a conversation with his guys, with his friends. More so than if he's a regular media scrum at his locker after a game. I'm sure he feels more comfortable about that. But he knows, he's a smart guy. He knows what that was. He knows that was, and I feel like the inflection in his voice and the way that he kind of said it, he almost kind of like was almost maybe a little bashful about it, or he kind of like, as he was saying it, it almost seemed like he kind of was like, almost hesitated toward the end of his statement, but then kind of realized, and then kind of tried to explain it a little more and stuff, and then said it again.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is the first people that I heard talk about this were the guys on NBA TV. It was Kevin McHale, Chris Webber, and Isaiah Thomas, and those were the first guys that I heard talk about this, and they all three agreed. And Kevin McHale was the first one I heard say like exactly what I think. That's fine. You can feel that way. You can believe that. You can make the case, certainly. Let other people say that about you. That's the thing.
When
they talked
everybody
about it
starts
being-
talking about it, then are you allowed to say it?
No, that's the point. I mean, you can. It's not, he's not like the worst guy in the world ever or anything
He's not
like that,
even
but-
close to the word. That's the thing, is this isn't LeBron. That's
Increasingly, I think it is, though. I think every year he's getting a little bit more
why. So
that.
this move to LA is all of a sudden he become this LA dude and this LA head.
Not
and
all of a
this-
sudden.
I know not all of a sudden, but it seems to be more and more just over the past year since he's made, not year, a few months since he made the decision to go to LA.
I feel like
It's gotten worse and worse.
I feel like it's every year as he has another incredible year wherever he's at. It was in Miami. He started winning championships. Then he went back to Cleveland, won another championship, went to 8 straight finals or whatever. Had incredible years. Was the best player in the world for all these years. Every year he has another one. He starts thinking more and more about his legacy, more and more about his place in the history of the game and where he ranks. I think he really thinks that, and like you said, he does, because he's talked about
He
it several
does
times.
think that, and you'd be great. You can't tell me nobody else ever did. This is a completely generation of human being coming out, though. He's 34 years old. Technically, this guy is a millennial, and he's hanging around all these young kids who feel like it's okay to speak out and say what you want to who you want when you want. I mean, these guys are going against teams, telling them their teams, I'm done. I want to be traded. That never happened in the old days. This is a whole different type of player. It's a whole different era of player. So I think you're going to get the greatest player acting a little differently than they had in the past, than your Michaels or your Magics. And I mean, obviously Larry Bird's never going to say a word about being the greatest, but you know, or Wilt Chamberlain's or Bill Russell's or any of those guys. That's not the generation we're in now. We're in a generation of me. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Look what I'm doing. Look what I'm doing. Look what I'm doing. That, I mean, yeah.
I agree with you, but I feel like LeBron is old enough and has enough ties to the older guys and to the guys that some of them were still playing when he first came into the league, and he has enough wisdom to know that modesty, humility, those things really count for your legacy too. If you're so worried about legacy, guess what? Just be the player you've been your entire career. And let everybody else talk about you're the greatest of all time, or you and Michael are the greatest of all time, or you know, you're
on the Mount
1B
Rushmore.
or whatever.
It's all about the
right.
Mount Rushmore, it seems like, anymore. You're the
Which
Mount.
just means top four.
Just,
I guess, but
right. But still,
either way, it just didn't come across very well to me, and to honestly almost everybody else I've heard speak about it. I'm most interested now. Every talking head like Colin Cowherd and Shannon Sharp and what's his name, and Skip Bayless and Adam Schmidt and all these dummies that don't know what they're talking about. They can all have their opinions and stuff, and most of them did agree that it looked bad on LeBron, whether he's right or not.
It's going to look bad on him no matter what.
But the ones that I care about are the players, the current and especially the former players, how they felt about it, and it just all of those guys seem to feel like. Chauncey Billups actually said, I like that he said this. I don't agree with him, but I like that he had the nerve to come out and say that. Everybody else, though, that I've heard, all the former players.
But we haven't heard any of the players that are playing now.
Right. Yeah, right. But and I think most guys are probably going to be careful about that because they're still in the league. I mean,
and LeBron is their idol. I mean, these guys were 3, 4, 5 years old when he started playing.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So yeah, they looked up. They still look up to LeBron. So you're not going to have anybody. In fact, they probably only know him as the greatest there ever was. Which then again puts us further into this era of kid who's. I always say I feel like the whole feeling like you could just walk up to any referee at any time and start arguing. I feel like that started with Michael Jordan and has carried since. And because Michael thought he could do it, and then everybody watched Michael do it, and then everybody got to the league and everybody thinks they can do it. And now you got a guy like LeBron who whines on every call. I still love him.
Everybody does now.
I know.
That drives me.
But at the same time, you get into this now where you have a guy who's going to come out and say that he's the greatest, and that's all these kids see. They don't know as much. You don't see as much on the old guys. That's what you see. And you're going to start seeing the next greatest player come out and be like, I'm the greatest there is.
Probably, but I would love, because of that exact fact, that guys are coming into the league, getting drafted on draft day, having interviews and saying, and they ask who your favorite player is. I grew up watching LeBron James, which makes me feel like 1,000 years old because
Sure.
I was out of high school when he was in the. I was, yeah. I was. So were you, right? Yeah. He was the year after you.
Yeah, he was class 03, I was a class 02.
Right. So anyway, we're both older than LeBron James, so we've seen his entire career from the beginning.
That means I can't wear a LeBron James jersey.
That's
doesn't
correct.
It? Oh,
that's right.
What a bummer. I can still wear my Votto jersey. He's like 3 months older than me.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sure. Absolutely. You're welcome to wear a Votto jersey. You can wear that Larkin jersey right over there.
That's right.
Anyway, that's what I mean. For him to be a guy that so many players look up to, so many guys, all the kids right now that are 6 years old that are starting to really follow basketball, from those kids up to the kids that are 25, 26, 27, that were watching LeBron James play pro basketball when they were playing basketball in grade school and high school, for him to if he's asked the question, for him to just come up, yes, he can think that, because I'm sure Michael does, like I said, but it would make a lot more sense. That's the thing. Like, I think that's one of the things. If I can be an old man, get off my lawn moment.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that drives me crazy. That the culture now is the look at me. I'm, look how great I am. I've got to make some sort of 3 gesture every time I make a shot. I've got to play the air guitar or shoot an arrow or whatever every time I make a play or whatever. That's garbage. I hate that garbage. But that's what it is. Like, you have to make sure people notice you. Like, that's people are out for recognition.
It's
not
the
even
brand.
athletes too, just on
Sure.
social media, posting stupid stuff all the time about dumb, stupid videos that people are going to like because it's a lot of times negative, but a lot of people are going to like it because that's just the culture. That's the way it's going. So you are a cultural icon. You're LeBron James. You have such an influence over pop culture, over every kid, teenager right now. Be humble. Be honest. That's good. That's good. That's what he did. He was honest about how he feels about that. That's great. But also be humble and say, take a page out of Michael's book. Just use his answer. Say, you know what? I never got to really play against Michael in his prime. I didn't get to play against Bill Russell in his prime, or Elgin Baylor or Jerry West or Oscar Robertson. I can't say. You can't compare eras. It's a totally different game. If you want to say, I'll say I'm the best in my era. I'll say I'm the best in the 2000s, and I'm fine with that. And I think most people would be fine with that because I think everybody would agree with that. But all time best,
the GOAT
you just
talk-
can't say it.
The GOAT talk gets a little out of hand because people would be like, who's the GOAT right now? Who's the GOAT right now? And I don't know
There's
how
so
the
many
question was
variations.
framed exactly. It obviously means greatest of all time, but sometimes it's formed in a manner of literally just the greatest right now is what I don't know how the question was formed. I'm sure it was literally, how do you feel you are? And he probably said I'm the greatest because he probably thinks that. But is there any other thing that LeBron has ever done that has made you say, you know what, I don't think this, be a better role model?
After they won, I think it was the first championship in Miami. He was Finals MVP. He was the best player on the floor, obviously, and there was a moment after the game where he's holding the Larry O'Brien trophy and is it the Bill Russell? I think the Finals
Bill
MVP.
Russell
I think is the Bill Russell trophy. He's
No,
holding
Bill-
both of them.
I thought the Bill Russell trophy was the MVP of the All-Star game. Oh,
Is it?
no, that's not right. Anyway, it's of the finals. Go ahead.
Okay, so he's holding both of them, and he has this look on his face like, yeah, like he has this look. I remember seeing it with you, and you felt the same way. I'm telling you,
Yeah?
I talked to you about it, and you said, yeah, I didn't like that. That looked like he was like really super cocky in that moment.
All right.
Sure, he won the Finals MVP and just
Do
won
you know
a
how
championship.
much look at so you always want to bring, everybody wants to compare him to MJ, and like I said, I hate it. I don't like doing it, but I'm going to in this case because you just said take a page out of MJ's book because the one thing that you can now say is that MJ never said he was the greatest of all time and LeBron said it. Michael Jordan was the cockiest son of a bee you ever met in your life.
He wasn't the greatest guy. I don't know if he was that cocky though.
Have you ever heard any of the stories from the
Absolutely. That's
the
what I
Dream
mean.
Team and
He's
all
not a
that
great
stuff?
guy.
When the Dream Team games when they were practicing and him getting up there and basically just telling everybody, back out of my way, I'm the best, I'm the great, I'm here, it's me.
He
blah, blah,
was
blah.
specifically going at Magic Johnson. It was he and Magic Johnson going after each other,
That's fine.
and
I'm just saying.
that was them going at each other as a competitive thing. And Magic admits that Michael was taking. That was the time Michael took over the league.
That's when, that's when Magic looked at Larry and said, "It's time to pass it," or "It's time to pass the torch,"
Right.
or "It's his now," or something like that.
I just feel like that moment is one thing that just stands out to me after, I forget what year it was, but it was after the Heat,
07,
I think, won their first
07
championship.
or 08.
Their first or maybe even their second one. But anyway, that moment, it just didn't look good to me. And then this just lately in general, but specifically
The guy's done two things to look overly confident in his entire career. And other than that, he's an entrepreneur. He is the best role model we've had in professional sports, and I can't tell you how long, from the greatest player
since Sean Casey.
Role model
since David Robinson. David Robinson. Way better.
Okay.
Way better role model than anyone, actually.
I'll give you the David Robinson. But what I'm trying to say, forget a role model. We're not role models, whatever, Charles Barkley
Right.
and all that garbage. But what I'm saying is, LeBron is the most polarizing person I've ever met.
And he is
This guy is
way better than most people
He is
would. I know.
phenomenal. And this guy, I mean, I don't know him legit. I don't know him. But the things he's done, he doesn't do things wrong. When he made the decision to leave Cleveland, the whole reason he made it a big skeptical, he was raising money for kids.
Yeah.
I mean, so even the things that he's done that have been
he's-
stupid or not worked, he was doing for a good reason, a good cause. He just seems, he puts out, he's like a good guy. He's never done that stupid thing or got himself in trouble or said something that made him
Except on Instagram.
on the
lately.
news.
I don't even. He liked some, I don't know, half-naked girl's photo or something. I don't know what he actually did. I didn't pay.
Is there something wrong with that? What's
Well,
wrong with that?
Savannah's got a problem with that, but but I guess I don't. No, look. Overall, he has been incredible. He has handled the biggest spotlight for any athlete in a long time, since Michael probably.
There's no, but
better
even when
than
Michael
just
was
about
there,
anybody.
he didn't have the spotlight LeBron does this because of social media, and LeBron is every second of every day. You know where he is, what he's doing. That
Yes.
wasn't like that for Michael. Michael was like that.
Michael was the first, though, like major international stuff.
I'll
was
give
the
you that.
biggest.
That's fine, but what I'm saying is there's a bigger spot. I'm not saying that. Take away who's better. Take that away.
Oh, yeah,
There's
no.
a bigger spotlight on LeBron James than on any professional athlete
Right.
that has ever been
Right.
in any of the sports, except for maybe in just with those soccer guys. What's the one guy's name with the crooked face on the
Cristiano Ronaldo and
is
somebody-
Ronaldo the one who had the really funny statue? The really funny
I forget.
statue at his airport that they made for him.
Yeah,
They put a statue.
I can't remember if it was him or.
I think it was
who the other
Ronaldo.
one? I don't know. Pele. Pele's the best. You want to talk about
Here
goats?
we go. Michael Jordan and Pele.
No.
are right
Pele
here.
or Ronaldo?
And then you got
Greatest of all time
Greatest
soccer
of all
players.
time.
Let's go. Ready? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not getting into that.
Casey Jones.
Casey Jones?
Yeah.
Kobe Jones.
Kobe Jones.
Jones.
Casey Jones is totally Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Casey Jones.
Casey Jones
Casey Jones-
was the best all-around athlete because he had every athletic stick in his bag in the Turtles.
Casey Jones was a former Celtic coach.
Wasn't Casey Jones the guy on the Turtles
I might
who
have
wore
been, I
the
don't know.
hockey mask and he had like a bat? He had like a golf bag, and in it he had a bat. He had a like a tennis racket, a croquet stick, all kinds of crazy stuff.
I vaguely remember that only because you just said that, but I don't know.
Dude, you not a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle kid?
I mean, I was, yeah, but
That was
I don't remember.
I had the Casey Jones action figure. I had the Turtles van. I had the
I played the arcade game every time I went to Pizza Hut.
Pizza Hut. Yeah, good work. Pizza Hut was good.
All right, so we can probably wrap this up. Aside from the who is the greatest of all time, that doesn't even matter in this conversation, really. It's just the fact that it didn't look good. It didn't sound good that he came out and specifically said that.
Nobody will remember this in 20 years. When you think of Michael Jordan, do you
Well,
think of a guy who stayed up
when-
all night
when-
gambling?
when
When you think of Michael Jordan, do you think of
I remember all that stuff.
You
when
remember it,
LeBron
but it's
James
not what you
Jr.
think of.
in 20 years, when LeBron James Jr. is talking about how he's the greatest of all time, we're gonna go back to this time and say, wait a minute, your dad said that too. I don't know. I'm just trying to give a LeBron James Jr. reference.
trying to get one in every show?
Yeah,
I bet if you go back, I'm gonna have to start
Yeah.
putting him in the hashtags.
LBJJ.
LBJJ, LeBron J, June R Junior. Oh man, we're pretty far into this. All
We
right,
good?
so well, here's what I want to say. We were gonna get into our next poll.
Yes.
All right,
I
so
have that, and then one more like
I-
2-second thing at
I
the
want
very end. But go.
I want to push the poll off because
Yep.
we need some time for the poll. We're already an hour and 15 minutes in. I don't want to take this thing too far, too long. And that our next poll is going to be best nicknames in sports history.
Correct.
So if you got any out there, shoot them over to us. Comment below, where however you want to do it. Give us some nicknames. We've got a list of 20. Give us some more. We got to narrow it down to 16, and we're going to do a 16-team bracket.
Yes.
Okay, so from there, what else you got?
The last thing I have. We're gonna end on a sad note. I'm sorry to say.
I don't like that, but okay. Oh, no, yes, I do know. Yes.
You know. I'm sure you know.
Oh, let me tell you, brother. Is that where you're going?
Yes, I am. Rest in peace, Mean Gene Okerlund.
We're going to have a moment of silence for Mean Gene. All right, brother.
76 years old. Second greatest broadcaster of all time behind Marty Brennaman. I don't know. Just
By far greatest interviewer in the history of broadcasting.
big part of our childhoods because we were both very big wrestling fans.
I kind of feel bad for Mean Gene Okerlund because that dude might have had one of the best voices I've ever heard. That guy could have done anything he wanted to.
A lot of voiceover work he could have done.
Yeah, and instead, what he decided to do was stand next to big, sweaty, bulky men and have them do all kinds of weird stuff to him and say weird stuff. But he loved it. I mean, Mean Gene was huge part of what made the WWF
Yes.
so great.
Yes. I hate saying this and feeling this way, but
Are you getting choked up?
anytime. No, no. I mean, yes, I am. I was crying the whole way here, actually. No, anyway, the best part about a celebrity that I love dying is all the old videos that
Yes.
resurface.
Yes.
I hate to say that because I feel terrible. I'd much rather have the man on the earth
Sure,
than all the old really great, even some rare footage of some of the interviews he did and
Yeah.
even some behind the scenes stuff. But man, there were some awesome videos I was watching today because of that.
Favorite Mean Gene Okerlund, and you've been watching them. I haven't been watching them. What's your favorite Mean Gene interview, performance, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, that's a good thing to say, performance, because it was something that I've never seen in my life. I feel like I should have seen it when I was a kid. I just saw they did a whole 10-minute thing where Hulk Hogan went to Mean Gene's house and he was going to train him. He was just training him to get in great shape. So Hulk Hogan, I mean, it was a totally staged thing, but
Of course.
but now you're getting choked up. See, it's a sad. I
Now
told
I'm
you it
getting
was a
choked
sad
up. It
thing.
is sad, man.
Listen, so Hulk Hogan showed up at Mean Gene's house at 5 a.m. Mean Gene was sitting there. He just got up. He's smoking a cigar, drinking coffee. Hulk Hogan starts yelling at him, takes all that stuff away, makes him drink raw eggs, and go out and take a 2-mile run at 5 a.m. And then he shows up the next day, and it's at 5:30 or 6 or whatever. And it's like this montage of those guys working out together, mostly just running, I guess, outside.
Because what are they going to show Mean Gene lifting?
Yeah, yeah.
He can't even get the bar up.
Right. Yeah. So no, but it was really cool because that was his big thing was he kind of helped usher in and make Hulk Hogan the icon that he was. He was.
Sure.
They worked together in the AWA, which was the biggest
Right.
wrestling federation, before the
Before
WWF
Big
got
Man
big.
took
Right.
control and bought up 5
Right.
or 6 of them or whatever.
Right. So Mean Gene came over, and then Hulk Hogan came over, and Mean Gene really helped promote the heck out of Hulk Hogan and make him the biggest star, probably the GOAT. So okay, let's see, greatest of all time: Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Undertaker. You got
It's
I'm
between
sure,
it's between.
but you can't
Ultimate
compare eras. You can't compare eras
compare
because you
eras?
had
Dusty Rhodes.
Dusty, yeah, that's tough to say because so many of these guys from like the 70s were
Turned
still
into-
wrestling in the 2000s for some reason because I guess you can.
I still don't know how Undertaker made it as long as he did.
That guy's only like every time he has a birthday, I see it. And it's like Undertaker turned 51. What do you mean? He was wrestling in 1971. He's not 51.
Ric Flair was always the one though.
Ric Flair. Yes.
That dude's almost died like 50 times.
I know. He looks.
That's great. So
I don't
so
wanna
real
say
quick, my favorite. I haven't watched any of these videos, but the one Mean Gene Okerlund thing I remember more than anything in the world. You remember the Bushwhackers?
Of course I do.
They come down with their
Luke
hands
and
over their head.
Luke and somebody else. Luke and somebody else.
All right,
His
so
brother.
the Bushwhackers were the craziest 2 wackos you ever seen in your life. I've seen them rip open the turnbuckles and eat the stuff in the turnbuckles. Mean Gene is interviewing him, and these guys are not listening to anything he's saying at all. They're saying wild stuff, and the one guy just reaches down and grabs the flower off of Mean Gene's lapel because he had a flower for some reason on his suit and starts eating it, and then turns around and walks away.
I remember that.
Yes, 100% my
Holy cow.
favorite Mean Gene. Probably my favorite Bushwhackers thing that ever happened. But there you go.
Another good one was he's interviewing somebody, and the WWF sign on the wall behind him falls, scares the crap out of him, drops an F-bomb. Drops an F-bomb and then says some other cuss word or something. He was like legitimately mad about it.
Mean Gene was on Dan Le Batard's show a lot over the last couple years, and they had some fun with him. There's some really good, hilarious interviews with Dan Le Batard and Mean Gene Okerlund.
Mean Gene Okerlund.
A lot of people don't like Dan Le Batard. He's real polarizing as well. You either like him or hate
I
him.
like
But
him.
that interview, the interviews he's had over the years with Mean Gene, look them up. Those are hilarious because he talks about what really happened, what really went down back in the day.
Adam Schmidt's 2019 Halloween costume, Mean Gene Okerlund.
There's no way you could do it. I don't even know if they make a bald cap that could cover up that fro.
I'm just going to have to cut my hair like that. I'm going to have to shave the top,
so
leave the
great,
horseshoe,
please.
grow just a mustache,
God,
put on a
please
few
do that.
pounds,
Please do that.
wear a nice suit.
You're gonna have to
Mean Gene
shrink
Okerlund.
about 5 inches.
I'm gonna, yeah. I have to. I'll stand. I'll kneel on my shoes.
Mean Gene was
walk
probably
around.
like 6 foot, but everybody interviewed was like 6'10".
Yeah, yeah. Hulkster was like 6'4",
6'8".
6'5". Was
I thought he was
6'8"?
6'7" or 6'8".
Maybe he is. I don't know, but yeah, he came up to like Mean Gene
I don't
came
know.
up
I
to
could be
like
wrong
his
about that.
waist. Anyway, rest in peace, Mean Gene Okerlund.
Rest in peace. We love you, Mean Gene. Well, and on that note,
That's it.
I think that's about all I got. And I was, so unprepared. The music's not ready to end this thing. My iPad's dead. I'm sure by now Facebook Live is dead.
Yeah, probably.
I went over there a minute ago and it said 10% left. So if you're listening to this still, you can catch us. We're Nosebleed Sports Podcast. Adam Schmidt, Chris Witt, Adam on Twitter.
Adam Schmidt, 44.
And you can get us SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, CastBox. Let us know if there's something else you listen to podcasts on, and we'll try to do that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Let us know about your favorite all-time sports nicknames.
There you go. All right. We appreciate you guys listening, and don't forget to turn your headlights on.